U.S. troops in Nigeria, security implications, religious violence concerns, and possible political consequences. Recent developments indicate that the United States has deployed a small military team to Nigeria, marking a new phase of cooperation between Washington and Abuja in confronting. According to U.S. Africa troops, but are expected to assist with intelligence, surveillance, coordination, and specialized counter-terrorism capabilities. The deployment follows continued instability in several regions of Nigeria, where armed insurgent groups, bandits, and extremist organizations have carried out attacks affecting communities across religious and ethnic lines. Naso Africa News Siam. Understanding the implications of this development requires examining three major dimensions. 1. The security situation in Nigeria. 2. The geopolitical meaning of U.S. involvement. 3. The potential impact on regional political movements and debates about self-determination. Nigeria's security crisis and international concern. Nigeria has faced a long-running insurgency involving Boko Haram, ISWAP, and other armed groups responsible for thousands of deaths and mass displacement over the past decade. Naso Africa News Siam. In addition to extremist insurgency in the northeast, other regions have experienced violence linked to armed banditry, communal conflicts, and attacks on villages, farms, and religious sites. These incidents have generated global concern, prompting calls from human rights organizations, religious groups, and foreign governments for stronger protection of civilians. Because of the scale and persistence of the violence, international partners, including the United States, have gradually increased cooperation with Nigerian security agencies through intelligence sharing, training, and logistical assistance. The latest deployment of a small U.S. military advisory team appears to be part of this broader counter-terrorism partnership rather than a large-scale intervention. Naso African Perception, SAM. What the U.S. deployment actually means. It is important to understand that the current presence is limited and advisory in nature. Officials state that the team is intended to augment Nigeria's existing operations with specialized capabilities such as intelligence analysis, surveillance support, tactical coordination, and counter-terrorism advisory functions. The deployment does not represent an occupation or major troop buildup, but rather reflects a strategic partnership approach often used in international counter-terrorism cooperation. Naso African Perception, SAM. However, even small deployments can carry symbolic and political significance. Historically, when major powers increase security cooperation in unstable regions, it signals growing international concern about regional instability, recognition that local conflicts may have wider security implications, a willingness to become more involved diplomatically and strategically. For Nigeria, this may indicate that global powers increasingly view its internal security situation as affecting broader West African stability. Religious violence narratives and international debate. International discussions surrounding Nigeria's violence sometimes emphasize attacks affecting religious communities, especially where places of worship or religious gatherings are targeted. Some U.S. officials and commentators have framed certain attacks as evidence of religious persecution, while Nigerian authorities emphasize that victims come from multiple faiths and ethnic groups. This difference in interpretation has contributed to policy debates abroad, including calls for stronger international engagement in protecting civilians and promoting religious freedom. The designation of Nigeria in international religious freedom discussions has further intensified diplomatic attention to the issue. Therefore, the presence of U.S. personnel also reflects political pressure from international advocacy groups demanding greater international involvement in addressing violence affecting civilians, regardless of religious identity. Geopolitical consequences for West Africa. Beyond Nigeria itself, the deployment carries regional significance. West Africa has experienced rising instability in several countries, including insurgencies and political upheavals. As a result, External powers are increasingly concerned about expansion of extremist networks across borders, migration pressures caused by insecurity, and competition among global powers for influence in Africa. Strengthening security cooperation with Nigeria, the continent's most populous nation and key regional actor, allows the United States to maintain strategic engagement in the region while supporting counter-terrorism efforts. Possible implications for political and self-determination debates. Whenever international actors become more involved in a country's internal security issues, domestic political debates often intensify. In Nigeria, discussions about governance, regional autonomy, and self-determination movements already exist in various forms. International attention to security challenges can indirectly affect these debates in several ways. Global visibility. Increased foreign engagement often brings greater international media coverage of local grievances and political issues. Human rights scrutiny. External partnerships frequently come with stronger monitoring of rights protections and governance practices. Diplomatic pressure. Governments may face stronger pressure to address underlying political tensions alongside security challenges. However, it is important to note that foreign military advisory deployments do not automatically translate to support for any political movement or territorial restructuring. International actors typically prioritize stability, counter-terrorism cooperation, and diplomatic engagement rather than involvement in domestic political disputes. Potential benefits and risks of the U.S. presence. Possible benefits: improved intelligence and surveillance capacity against extremist groups, enhanced training and operational coordination for Nigerian security forces, increased international attention to civilian protection issues, increased diplomatic engagement focused on security reforms. Potential risks: public suspicion or political controversy over foreign military presence, misinterpretation of the mission's purpose by different political actors, risk of over-militarizing complex social and political conflicts which also require economic and governance reforms. Security experts frequently emphasize that military cooperation alone cannot solve deep-rooted conflicts, which often require political dialogue, development programs, and justice reforms alongside security measures. Long-term outlook. The deployment of a small U.S. advisory team signals that Nigeria's security situation has reached a level of international concern where deeper cooperation is considered necessary. Whether this involvement leads to lasting stability will depend on several factors: effective joint counter-terrorism operations, political reforms addressing governance challenges, economic development in affected regions, successful reconciliation efforts among communities. If combined with broader reforms, international cooperation could strengthen Nigeria's ability to stabilize affected regions. Without complementary political and social solutions, however, security gains alone may remain temporary. Conclusion: the arrival of a limited U.S. military advisory presence in Nigeria represents a strategic counter-terrorism partnership rather than a full-scale intervention. It reflects global concern about ongoing violence and the desire to strengthen intelligence and operational coordination against extremist threats. While the deployment has generated political discussions, including debates about governance, human rights, and regional political movements, its official purpose remains focused on security support. The long-term impact will depend less on troop numbers and more on whether broader political, economic, and social reforms accompany the security effort. Ultimately, the situation highlights a central reality: lasting peace in Nigeria will likely require both effective security measures and sustained political solutions addressing the deeper causes of conflict across the country. Don't forget to follow me for more insightful and informative content like this one every day. Stay tuned and see you on the next episode.